You are late every day. This is unacceptable.
You are fired. Please, one last warning.
No, get out.
The lazy employee everyone mocked, until the female CEO saw his second job. The morning sun barely pierced through the gray clouds as Marcus Thompson shuffled into the gleaming headquarters of Apex Industries at 8:47 a.m. 17 minutes late. Again. Look who decided to show up, sneered Derek from accounting, loud enough for half the floor to hear. Must be nice living on island time, Marcus. A few employees snickered. Marcus said nothing, just kept his head down and made his way to his desk in the corner of the open plan office. His eyes were bloodshot, dark circles underneath them like bruises. His shirt, though clean, was wrinkled. He moved like a man twice his 32 years. Third time this week, Thompson called out Jennifer, the floor supervisor, tapping her watch dramatically. Some of us actually value our jobs. Marcus nodded apologetically and slumped into his chair. Within minutes, his eyes were drooping as he stared at his computer screen. By 10 a.m., several coworkers had walked past his desk, whispering and pointing at him, struggling to stay awake. He's literally sleeping at his desk, someone whispered. Probably out partying all night, another voice added. I heard he takes naps in the bathroom. The rumors had been building for months. Marcus Thompson had become the office punching bag, the lazy employee everyone loved to hate. Nobody knew where he lived, what he did after work, or anything about his personal life. He never joined them for happy hours, never participated in office birthday celebrations, never engaged in the water cooler gossip that lubricated the social machinery of Apex Industries. All they saw was a man who arrived late, looked exhausted, occasionally dozed at his desk, and left exactly at 5 p.m. every single day without fail. What they didn't see was the truth. At the top floor of Apex Industries, in an executive suite with floor-to ceiling windows overlooking the city, sat Victoria Chen, the 34-year-old CEO who had transformed her father's struggling manufacturing company into a multi-million-dollar tech enterprise in just 5 years. Victoria was beautiful, brilliant, and brutally efficient. She wore power suits like armor, her dark hair always perfectly styled, her makeup flawless even during 16-hour workdays. Forbes had called her the Iron Butterfly, elegant but unyielding. She demanded excellence from everyone, including herself. Miss Chen, here's the performance report you requested, her assistant said, placing a folder on her immaculate desk. Victoria flipped it open, her sharp eyes scanning the metrics. Her gaze stopped on one name highlighted in red, Marcus Thompson, Data Entry Specialist, Department 4 Billions. Consistent tardiness, low productivity scores, multiple complaints from team members about sleeping during work hours, she read aloud. Why is this person still employed here? HR has documented everything, but he hasn't technically violated any termination clauses, her assistant explained. He completes his minimum required work, just barely. Victoria's jaw tightened. She had built Apex Industries on a culture of excellence, innovation, and dedication. There was no room for deadweight. Schedule a meeting with him tomorrow, 5 p.m. I'll handle this personally. The next day, Marcus's hands trembled slightly as he rode the elevator to the executive floor. He knew what this meant. He'd seen the writing on the wall for weeks. The looks, the comments, the written warnings from HR. He couldn't afford to lose this job. But he also couldn't explain why he was always so tired. The truth was too complicated, too personal, too painful to share with strangers who had already decided who he was. Victoria's office was intimidating, all glass, steel, and leather with awards and accolades lining the walls. She sat behind her desk like a queen on a throne, her expression unreadable. Mr. Thompson, sit down. He sat, trying to keep his exhausted eyes focused. I'll be direct, Victoria began, her voice cold and professional. Your performance has been unacceptable. You're consistently late. You appear to sleep during work hours, and your colleagues report that you contribute nothing to team morale. Give me one reason why I shouldn't terminate you right now. Marcus swallowed hard. Part of him wanted to explain everything, but pride and pain kept his mouth shut. I complete my work, ma'am. I meet my quotas. Barely, Victoria shot back. This company doesn't reward mediocrity, Mr. Thompson. We reward excellence, dedication, passion. You seem to have none of those qualities. You're lazy, uncommitted, and frankly, a bad influence on your coworkers. The word lazy hit Marcus like a physical blow. If only she knew. I'm sorry I've disappointed you, Miss Chen, he said quietly, his voice cracking slightly. I'm doing my best. Your best? Victoria's voice rose slightly, the first crack in her professional veneer. Your best is showing up late, half asleep, and doing the bare minimum? What do you even do with your time, Mr. Thompson? For a moment, Marcus considered telling her. Telling her about the nights, about the second job, about the third job, about the reason behind it all. But shame stopped him. I understand if you need to let me go, ma'am. Victoria studied him, frustration evident in her expression. There was something in his eyes, not defiance, not laziness, but something she couldn't quite identify. Resignation, defeat, sadness? You have 2 weeks to significantly improve your performance, she said finally. If I see one more tardy arrival, one more incident of sleeping at your desk, you're done. Understood? Yes, ma'am. Thank you. As Marcus left, Victoria felt an unusual pang of something. Guilt. Curiosity. Expected him to make excuses, to blame others, to argue. Instead, he had simply accepted her harsh words with quiet dignity. Something didn't add up. 3 days later, Victoria found herself working late, as usual. At 11 p.m., she decided to leave the office and head home. Her driver was off for the evening, so she drove herself, taking the route through the older industrial part of the city. At a red light, she happened to glance at a construction site, a new hospital wing being built. Even at this late hour, there were workers under harsh floodlights, pouring concrete and operating heavy machinery. One figure caught her eye, something familiar about the way he moved. She pulled over, curiosity overcoming her usual efficiency. Getting out of her car, she walked closer to the chain-link fence surrounding the site. It was Marcus Thompson. He was wearing a hard hat, safety vest and work boots, operating a jackhammer with practiced skill. Even from a distance, she could see the exhaustion in his movements, but also the determination. He worked methodically, professionally, pushing through obvious fatigue. Victoria's mind raced. It was 11 p.m. on a Wednesday. Marcus worked at Apex until 5 p.m. That meant he came here directly after his full workday. She watched for several minutes, pieces of the puzzle clicking into place. Then she returned to her car, but she didn't go home. Instead, she pulled up Marcus Thompson's employee file on her tablet. Emergency contact, Sacred Heart Pediatric Hospital. Her heart sank. The next morning, Victoria did something she had never done before. She called in sick. Instead, she made a phone call to Sacred Heart Pediatric Hospital. I'm inquiring about a patient, she said carefully. I believe they may be connected to Marcus Thompson. After some verification and explaining she was his employer, a sympathetic nurse spoke to her. Mr. Thompson's daughter, Emma, has been with us for 8 months. Leukemia. She's 7 years old. He's here every single night from 7 p.m. to midnight, then goes to his construction job until 6 a.m. I honestly don't know how he's still standing. Victoria felt her throat tighten. And her mother? Passed away 2 years ago, car accident. He's raising Emma alone. The medical bills? The nurse paused. He works 3 jobs to cover what insurance doesn't. He never complains, never misses a night with his daughter. After hanging up, Victoria sat in her car in the hospital parking lot and did something she hadn't done in years. She cried. All this time she had called him lazy, had mocked his exhaustion, had threatened his job, one of 3 jobs he worked to save his dying daughter. Marcus Thompson wasn't lazy, he was a hero. She checked her watch. 6:30 a.m., she waited. At 6:45 a.m., she saw him emerge from the hospital, his work clothes dusty with construction debris. He walked to an old, beat-up sedan, his movement slow with exhaustion. He would go home, shower quickly, and be at Apex by 9 a.m., Late, as always, because he couldn't bear to leave his daughter's bedside 1 minute sooner than necessary. Victoria made several phone calls that morning. At 2 p.m. that afternoon, Marcus was called to Victoria's office again. His heart sank. This was it. He was being fired. When he entered, he was shocked to see Victoria's eyes were red, as if she'd been crying. The Ice Queen crying? "Mr. Thompson, please sit down," she said, her voice gentle in a way he'd never heard. He sat, preparing for the worst. "I owe you an apology," Victoria began, and Marcus's eyes widened in shock. "I called you lazy. I judged you without knowing anything about your life. I was cruel and I was wrong. Miss Chen, Please let me finish," she interrupted, her voice cracking. "I know about Emma. I know about your other jobs. I know that you're not lazy. You're one of the most dedicated, hardworking people I've ever encountered, and I was too blind to see it." Tears began streaming down Marcus's face. He had held it together for so long, but hearing his daughter's name, hearing someone finally understand. "I've made some arrangements," Victoria continued, pulling out several documents. "First, Apex Industries will cover all of Emma's medical expenses, present and future. Our corporate health plan has been extended to include specialized pediatric cancer treatment." Marcus couldn't speak. He just stared at her in disbelief. "Second, your salary is being increased by 40%, and your hours are being reduced to part-time with full benefits. You'll work from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., giving you time to rest and be with Emma." "Ms. Chen, I can't. This is too much." "Third," Victoria said, wiping her own tears, "I've contacted your construction supervisor and your weekend job. I've arranged compensation so you can quit both of them. Your only job now is being Emma's father and healing." Marcus broke down completely, sobbing into his hands. "Why would you do this? I'm nobody, You're not nobody, Marcus. You're everything a parent should be, everything an employee should be, everything a person should be. I was the one who was lacking. I forgot that behind every employee is a human being with a story, with struggles, with pain." She stood up and walked around her desk, doing something completely unprecedented. She hugged him. "I'm so sorry I called you lazy," she whispered. "You're the strongest person I know." Within a week, the entire company knew the truth about Marcus Thompson. The same people who had mocked him now looked at him with admiration and shame. Derek from accounting personally apologized, tears in his eyes. Jennifer, the floor supervisor, organized a company-wide fundraiser that raised an additional $50,000 for Emma's treatment and future care. Victoria implemented new company policies, confidential support systems for employees facing hardships, flexible scheduling for family emergencies, and mandatory training on empathy and judgment. But the biggest change was in Victoria herself. She started seeing her employees as people, not just productivity metrics. She asked about their lives, their families, their struggles. The Iron Butterfly became known as the leader who cared. 6 months later, Emma went into remission. Marcus brought her to the office to meet everyone. The tiny 7-year-old with a bright smile and a pink headband charmed every person she met. When she met Victoria, Emma hugged her tightly and whispered, "Thank you for helping my daddy." Victoria knelt down to her level, tears in her eyes once more. "Your daddy is a hero, Emma. He taught me what true strength looks like." As she watched Marcus and Emma leave that day, hand in hand, Victoria thought about how close she'd come to destroying this man's life with her judgment and pride. She had learned the hardest lesson of her career: never judge someone's struggles until you've walked in their shoes. The lazy employee everyone mocked was actually the hardest working man in the building. And that truth had changed everything.